Welcome to English Voice Room. Today we're going to get into something that I think almost everyone feels at some point. It's that really quiet, confusing feeling of just being off course.
Yeah. It's a strange one, isn't it?
It is because on the surface, your life can look totally fine. You have the steady job, the regular hours, a good team.
Yeah.
Everything seems stable.
You're checking all the boxes.
Exactly. You wake up, you go to work, you smile, you do the things you're supposed to do. But underneath all of that, there's just this nagging feeling.
That stuck in the mud feeling. That's what I hear a lot. Everything looks okay from the outside, but internally something's just off. You feel completely out of sync.
Or, and this is the one that really gets me, you have this sudden kind of scary realization that the life you're living doesn't actually feel like it's yours.
Right. You're just standing still while it feels like the rest of the world is moving on without you.
You remember that so clearly from a few years back. It's that classic autopilot mode, right?
Absolutely.
You're just going through the motions, you're efficient, you're doing your job, but your heart just isn't in it. I remember sitting in my car before a job that, on paper, was great. It had prestige, it was stable, and I just stared in the rearview mirror thinking, is this it? Is this what the next 10 years are going to feel like?
Wow.
Yeah. And that realization that I was so far off from where I thought I should be, it wasn't just disappointing, it was like a small shock to the system.
And that shock, that jolt you're describing is so important. That's really the starting point for this whole conversation.
Right.
Because that feeling, that disconnect, it is absolutely not a sign that you failed.
That's such an important point.
It is. It's just the natural result of, change you haven't really processed, or more often just a slow, quiet drift over time. So if you're feeling this right now, it's not a bad thing. It's actually a sign, a hidden turning point. It's your mind's way of saying, hey, something here needs a little attention.
So we're not just going to talk about quick fixes today. Our whole goal is to dig into why this happens and give you some real actionable ways to start finding your way back.
Yeah, to sort of recalibrate and to see that moment of discomfort, not as a failure, but as the moment where the real growth starts.
Yeah.
It's your inner voice finally getting loud enough for you to hear it.
Exactly. And just before we jump in, a quick note. If you are enjoying our discussion, please subscribe to get all of our new ones. It really does help us out. Okay, so let's start with the root of it. Why do we drift? I mean, we're smart, capable people. Why do we end up on these paths that leave us feeling so empty?
Well, a lot of it comes down to one core issue. External expectations just getting louder than our own inner voice.
The tyranny of too many voices.
That's a perfect way to put it. From the moment we're kids, we're just bombarded with opinions and directions. Our parents want us to be safe and stable. Our teachers want us to get good grades.
Our friends define what's cool or not. And
Yeah.
now there's social media, which is just this constant stream of what your life should look like.
Exactly. What you should study, where you should work, how you should act. And it's not like it's aggressive. It's slow. It's subtle. We're wired to want to fit in, to get approval. So we start to conform without even realizing it.
And after a while, you actually stop hearing your own voice. You're listening so hard for what everyone else wants that your own desires just get drowned out.
Which brings us to this really useful analogy of the inner compass. Just think of your gut feeling, your intuition, your core values. That's your compass. It's designed to point you toward what's genuinely right for you.
Okay.
But when we keep prioritizing the external rewards, the status, the salary, the praise from others over the internal ones like joy or a sense of purpose,
The compass gets messed up.
it gets misaligned.
Yeah.
And even if it's off by just a few degrees when you're starting out, say you pick a career because it sounds safe, not because you love it,
Over 10 or 20 years.
you end up miles away from where you were meant to be. And the result isn't just regret. It's this deep confusion about who you even are anymore.
That college example is so real. I know so many people who went into law or finance because it sounded impressive. It was the right thing to do. And now, years later, they have the job title, they had the money, but they're just miserable because there's no passion there. They followed the map someone else gave them.
And what's so tough is that the more successful you look on the outside, the harder it is to admit you're lost. People say, you have everything. What are you complaining about?
Yeah, that just traps you even more. It makes you feel guilty for feeling bad.
Right.
And
So you have to keep asking yourself this one question over and over. Am I doing this because I want to, because it feels right to me? Or am I doing it because I think I'm supposed to?
the answer to that question is everything.
It's the whole game. One path leads to feeling grounded, and the other leads to just more confusion.
So once we admit that, okay, maybe we've been listening to other people too much, We hit this wall of discomfort, right? This feeling of being stuck.
Yeah.
And the first instinct is to just run away from it.
Distract yourself. Binge a show. Go out every night. Whatever. Anything to not feel that feeling.
But what we need to understand is that the discomfort itself is actually the wake-up call.
It is. It's painful, for sure. It's what psychologists call cognitive dissonance. Your brain is struggling with the conflict between the life you're living and the life you feel you should be living. But that pain is productive.
How so?
Because that moment where you finally just stop everything and ask, wait a minute, what am I actually doing here? That moment is the beginning of the end of the confusion.
It's the end of the autopilot.
Exactly. The discomfort is just your inner compass screaming for your attention. And now finally, you're in a place to listen.
Okay, so we stop, we sit with the discomfort, and now we're staring into, well, the unknown. A big blank void. Which is terrifying.
It is. We want plans. We want guarantees. We want to know what's coming next. Our brains are literally wired to see uncertainty as a threat.
So we panic.
We panic. But we have to consciously work to reframe that. Uncertainty isn't the enemy here. It's actually a gift.
A gift. That's a hard sell when you're feeling anxious about the future.
I know, but think of it this way. It's a gift of space. It's the emotional and mental white space you need to think, to explore, and to figure out what matters to the person you are today, not the person you were 5 years ago.
Right. It gives you permission to change your mind.
It gives you permission to rediscover yourself. We see this with people who do something that looks crazy from the outside, like leaving a stable job without another one lined up.
Which sounds incredibly reckless to most people.
To the conditioned mind, yes. But it's not about being reckless. It's about intentionally creating that space. And what often happens in those months of uncertainty is this incredible period of growth. You finally have time to just be, to read things you're curious about, to rest properly, to learn something just for fun.
But I have to push back on that a little. Because that sounds wonderful, but what about people with kids, with mortgages? They can't just quit their job and find themselves. Is embracing uncertainty only for the privileged?
That is such an important and fair question. And no, it's not. If you can't disrupt your external world, you have to disrupt your internal world.
What does that look like?
It means carving out small pockets of that space. Maybe it's just 20 minutes every morning before anyone else is awake. No phone, no news, no emails, just you, a cup of coffee, and a notebook. It's about creating an internal void where new ideas can actually surface.
So it's about the cognitive space, not necessarily the physical or financial space.
Precisely. The main point is that when things are uncertain, we get curious again. We start asking better questions. So you just have to stay open to the process, even if you're only figuring it out one tiny step at a time.
Okay, so once we've managed to create a little bit of that space, the focus has to turn inward. It's not about making a giant 5-year plan, but about getting back to basics, back to our core values.
Yes, this is the foundation. When you feel really, truly lost, it's almost always because your daily life has drifted way off from what you deeply believe in.
And we're not talking about some, abstract philosophical exercise here.
Not at all. It's very simple. Just ask yourself, what are the 3 to 5 things that I care about so much that my life feels empty without them?
Things like family or freedom or learning or health.
Exactly. Let's say your top values are creative expression, freedom, and family. But you're in a job that's 80 hours a week. It's very rigid, and it leaves you no time or energy for your family.
Well, then you're living in direct opposition to your own values every single day.
Every single day. And even if the money is great, that internal conflict will eat away at you. That's where the lost feeling comes from, is the dissonance.
I see this so much with the obsession with productivity. We get so focused on a single metric, how much did I get done today, that we completely stop doing the things that actually make us feel like ourselves.
Yes. You stop writing, or you stop having those long, rambling conversations with your best friend, or you stop going for that run that clears your head. You drift away from your own bedrock.
And just reconnecting with those things, even in small ways, can start to shift your internal direction. It gives you an anchor.
It's your new North Star. Even if the world outside is chaotic, you know which way you're pointing.
So we have a direction now. We're pointing towards our values. But then we hit the biggest wall of all, inertia. Just getting started. We tell ourselves we need a perfect plan or some huge burst of motivation before we can do anything.
That waiting is so counterproductive. It's what leads to analysis paralysis. We have to break that mindset of, if I can't do it perfectly, I won't do it at all.
So how do we do that?
This is where we bring in something I call the tiny win strategy. It's all about making the first step so small that it's almost impossible not to do it.
You're lowering the barrier to entry.
You're lowering the activation energy, exactly. So on a day when you feel completely overwhelmed, the goal isn't write a chapter of my book. The goal is write one single sentence, or maybe even just open the document.
That seems almost ridiculously small, like it couldn't possibly make a difference.
It seems small, but psychologically it's huge, because that tiny action gives you a little hit of progress. And progress, no matter how small, releases dopamine. It reinforces the idea that you are capable of taking action.
So you're shifting your self-perception from, I can't do anything, to, okay, I did that one little thing.
And that's how you build momentum. Real lasting change is never about one giant leap. It's about the compounding effect of these tiny little wins day after day. You're building a foundation of self-trust. You're proving to yourself you can follow through.
That makes a lot of sense. So these tiny wins start to build our confidence that get us aligned with our values. And that leads us to the next really important layer here, which is solitude. We have to talk about this because so much of our confusion isn't just about what we're doing, but about our fear of being with ourselves.
Yeah.
And it starts with a huge misunderstanding between being alone and feeling lonely.
Yes. This distinction is everything. Being alone is just a state. It's a fact. You are physically by yourself. And that can be wonderful. It can be peaceful.
But feeling lonely, that's an emotion. It's an internal feeling of emptiness or disconnection. And the crazy thing is, you can feel incredibly lonely in a room full of people.
Oh, absolutely. The loneliness in a crowd is a very real thing. And that deep internal loneliness usually doesn't come from a lack of people around you. It comes from a lack of connection with yourself.
Because you've spent so long trying to be what other people want, you don't even know who you are anymore.
Right. And that creates this void inside. And our modern instinct is to try and fill that void with noise.
Yeah.
We pack our schedules. We're constantly online. We rely on a partner to make us feel okay.
We do anything to avoid the quiet.
But the noise is just a temporary fix. It doesn't actually fill the void. If you've ever felt that sad, heavy feeling while you're at a party and everyone else is laughing, you know exactly what I mean. The emptiness is still there, waiting for you.
And if you're always waiting for someone else to make you happy, you're basically giving away all your power.
You are. You're making your well-being dependent on something outside of your control. That's why learning to just sit with your feelings, even the uncomfortable ones like boredom or sadness, for just a few minutes a day is so powerful. You're reclaiming your internal space.
And we have to mention the social media trap here because it just pours gasoline on this fire. You're seeing everyone else's highlight reel.
The perfect vacations, the happy families, the big career wins.
And you compare that curated image to your own messy, complicated inner world, and it just makes you feel even more alone and inadequate.
It's such a destructive cycle because it hides the truth, which is that everyone has hard days. Everyone struggles. True, lasting happiness has to be built from the inside out. Other people can add to it, but they can't be the source of it.
When you start to get that, when you accept that it's okay for people to have their own lives and that you don't need someone around 24/7,
Being alone stops being scary. It actually becomes a welcome friend. It's your time to recharge, to think, to hear your own voice again.
and when that fear goes away, this quiet strength starts to build up inside you. You stop choosing friends or partners out of neediness.
And you start choosing them because they genuinely add to a life that you've already built for yourself. That's a total game changer.
It is. Which leads us right into the practical side of this. How do we actually build that internal worth? How do we become, our own best friend?
It starts with something that sounds simple, but is incredibly hard for most of us. Being kinder to ourselves. Specifically, monitoring our self-talk.
We are just brutal to ourselves sometimes, aren't we?
We really are. We say things in our own heads that we would never, ever say to someone we love. We replay small mistakes over and over. We tell ourselves we're not good enough. It's like having a constant critic living in your mind.
And it's often so automatic we don't even notice we're doing it.
Exactly. So you have to consciously intervene. And a great tool for this is what I call the best friend test.
Okay, I like the sound of that.
It's simple. The next time you feel that wave of self-criticism, just pause. Imagine your best friend came to you with that exact same problem or feeling. What would you say to them?
Well, I wouldn't tell them they're a failure. I'd tell them it's okay. That one bad day doesn't mean anything.
Right. You'd offer kindness. You'd offer reassurance. You'd tell them to get some rest. That is the voice you have to start using on yourself. It's about cultivating self-compassion instead of constant judgment.
So it's about rewiring that automatic negative response.
Precisely. And then there are things you can actively do to build that feeling of self-worth. One of my favorites is the idea of the solo date.
Okay, explain that. It's more than just being alone, right?
Much more. It's about intentionally planning time for yourself that is purely for joy and pleasure. It's proving to yourself that you don't need anyone else's permission or presence to have a good time.
So like taking yourself to a movie or going to a cafe you love with a good book.
Exactly. Or cooking yourself a really nice meal. It's an act of affirmation. It slowly builds the quiet confidence that you are enough. You can create your own happiness.
And that ties into stopping the wait for external praise, too.
Yes. We waste so much energy hoping someone will notice our hard work and say, good job. We need to learn to give that validation to ourselves.
So at the end of the day, just telling yourself, you know what? I really tried today. I made progress. I deserve to rest.
Those small internal acknowledgments are what build a stable core. You become less dependent on the ups and downs of other people's opinions.
And I imagine journaling is a huge part of this. To even know what to praise yourself for, you have to be aware of what's going on inside.
Journaling is like a map of your own mind. When you write down your feelings, why am I sad? What am I actually afraid of? You take them from being this big, scary, formless cloud of anxiety.
And you make them concrete. You give them a name.
And once you can name it, you can deal with it. You start to hear that inner voice clearly again. And when you can hear it, you can finally start setting boundaries to protect your energy and your peace.
That inner voice becomes your guide for when to say yes, and just as importantly, when to say no.
Which is not selfish. It's essential self-care.
And all of this is easier when it's anchored in some kind of routine, right? To make that alone time feel safe and steady instead of empty.
Oh, routine is critical. It provides structure. Think about a simple morning routine, not about productivity, but about setting your internal tone for the day. Maybe it's just 5 minutes of stretching or sitting with your coffee and looking out the window.
No phone.
No phone. Just a quiet moment to check in with yourself. And then a night routine that signals to your body and mind that it's time to rest. A warm shower, lighting a candle, small things that make your space feel calm.
It turns alone time from something to be feared into something restorative.
Exactly. And even though we're talking a lot about going inward, it's so important to say that this doesn't mean you have to do it all in isolation. Having the right kind of external support is a huge piece of this.
But the right kind is key.
Yes. It's not about having 100 friends. It's about having 1 or 2 people you could be totally honest with who will just listen without trying to fix you.
Someone who just lets you talk it out.
The act of being truly seen and heard by someone else is incredibly powerful. It makes you feel less alone in your struggle, and it actually gives you more strength to keep showing up for yourself.
Because you know someone is in your corner.
Ultimately, when you build this internal independence, you start choosing your relationships differently. You're not clinging to people because you're afraid to be alone. You're choosing people who genuinely let you be yourself. Your self-worth isn't on the line anymore.
Wow. We have covered so much ground here. We started with that feeling of being adrift, of listening to too many other voices.
And we've seen how that leads to this internal loneliness, this feeling of not even knowing ourselves.
And the path back really is about turning inward. It's about being okay with a little uncertainty and practicing this really consistent, gentle kindness with yourself through these small daily actions.
And as we wrap up, there's one last thing that is just so important. We have to get better at celebrating the small wins.
We are so good at remembering our mistakes.
We remember every single failure in high definition, the times we messed up, the days we felt we couldn't do anything, but we just gloss over the moments of quiet courage.
Like the day you actually got out of bed when it felt impossible, or the day you started that journal, or asked for help.
Those are the real victories. Those are the things that build a new life, and they deserve to be celebrated.
I love this idea of a lost and found journal. Can you explain that?
It's a simple but really powerful way to reframe your story. On one side of a page, you write down a time you felt lost, confused, or stuck. And on the other side, you write down what you found in that experience, what you learned, what strength you discovered.
So you start to see that you weren't actually lost, you were just learning.
You were growing. The detours and the parts that felt like failure, they weren't wasted time. They were making you wiser. They were making you more resilient.
That's a powerful reframe, to look back and see the value in the struggle.
So I'd encourage everyone listening to just take a moment today and think about a recent time you felt off course. And ask yourself honestly, What did I find there? Maybe it was a new boundary. Maybe it was a little more patience with yourself. Whatever it is, that's worth celebrating.
That is a perfect place to leave it. If you are feeling stuck right now, just remember the power of one tiny win. Take one small step. You already have everything you need inside you to begin.
And to leave you with one final thought to explore on your own. If finding your path really does require listening to that quiet inner voice, consider this. How often is your daily life so full of noise and work and other people's demands that your inner voice literally doesn't have a single quiet moment to even get a word in?